Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is November 15th, 2024, and Bitcoin has the chance to close a very powerful candle here again on the weekly. And where do I want to see closures come in above? Well, we're looking at the weekly chart, and to maintain aggressive upside expansion on the weekly, I want to see closes come in above, well, now around $81,700 to $82,000. So by Sunday, this is where I want to see price closing above. That would indicate that we'll get continued expansion to the upside. We're already in a fully expansive posture, not just from the band's perspective, but from BBWP, which is the metric that I'm using to measure volatility of the price action as it relates to the bands. I even put this fancy trend line on here because everybody loves trend lines. This means nothing to me, by the way. I put it on here mainly because it is a little bit of bait, as I never use them, and sometimes people give me some flack for it. But essentially, this is a little bit of bait. Yeah, can you make an argument that, oh yeah, it's the breakout from the downtrend? Well, technically the breakout from the downtrend was here when Bitcoin put in a high at 66,550 and a close above $65,000, breaking the downtrend back here, put in that nice higher low into the prior cycle quarterly closing all-time high at 58.8 area, coming in with the low here on the weekly, and of course the daily there at 58,863, putting in this nice higher low structure. So higher high, higher low, coming into the mid portion of October here, and then up and away after a little bit of a back test. Now, I'd even mentioned back in mid-October into late October that as long as Bitcoin was closing above the upper first standard deviation, we were likely going to see the upper second hit, and we would start to see expansion to the upside, and especially aggressive expansion above the upper second and upper third. It's looking like Bitcoin is trading, of course, above the upper third right now. That would be extremely aggressive upside expansion, targeting some of those deeper overhead targets that we've talked about recently. So looks very good on the weekly right now. Criteria is for continuation of expansion to the upside. We want to see closes come in above, 81, I'd say 81.5 to $82,000. I would give this some room as Bitcoin kind of oscillates around in terms of price. Upper second is currently at 81, 650, 81.7. And in this case, looks really good. Looks really, really good right now. We do have the Saturday candle open, even though it is Friday for me. So we've got all of Saturday, all of Sunday to observe where Bitcoin closes this weekly candle. Looks really good right now, especially when it comes to expansive posture here with a 61.9, almost 62 over 30. And that does mean that we are likely going to see continuation to the upside in terms of the weekly candles. As long as Bitcoin is closing anywhere above the upper first, we'll see that expansion maintained. And that is now at 73,200. So, on major swings down and a high put it on the weekly, I could see it hitting that, and it would still have room as long as it's trading above the basis and in and around the upper first. We would still have room for expansion to maintain its posture, and for subsequent higher lows to come in above there. Last higher low is down here at 58.8 for the weekly. That's 58.8 to this 62.8 is kind of the zone to the downside. That would be the danger zone. I don't foresee price getting back there anytime soon, but weirder things have happened. So we do need to be aware of where the last higher low is. I would expect higher lows to occur on any major highs put in, either here or higher. And on closes above that $81.5 to $82,000, I'm looking for essentially continuation. We can look for highs maybe later. But let's go ahead and look at a few other things. So we've talked a little bit about the uptrend that's going on here. We do not have any in-trend bearish divergence to be aware of. We will have to be aware of wherever the next high is put in of a hidden bear div, and that hidden bear div would come from all the way back here in late March into April. So that big rally into the new all-time high at the time at 73.835. So that kind of zone up there, we will likely see hidden bearish divergence occur from that particular RSI read. Not a guarantee. We could always see this rip right past it. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few things in terms of RSI, actually. So where is the upper bounds of RSI here at the 85 read? That would be the bull critical zone. And the bull critical zone is at 134,274. This is very, very interesting. And one of the reasons why this is very interesting is there is a fundamental indicator called realized cap, or price predictions based on realized cap, but it's a realized cap price prediction chart. It looks like a set of Bollinger Bands. I'm going to show that to you now. It's a little squished here. I was having problems trying to full screen this, so you're just going to have to count on me moving this over. The top side of the bands here, which we do see Bitcoin outrun consistently when it's in a bull run, and we even saw it back here in 2021, and then the bands continue up. But in this case, it's currently at $134,087. So that is something to be aware of. This does update every single day. We can even look at the table here and see the speed at which it is updating. We can see the realized cap, the market cap, the total supply, the Bitcoin price. This last read was at 87,000, so it has not picked up the most recent closure. This is from 11/14. This will update over the weekend. I'll update you on what the metric is on Monday. But the ceiling price is at 134,871. Where is that 85 read again? That's right around 134,275. So, we do have some confluence overhead with some price realized cap fundamental stuff and our RSI here on the weekly for the upper bounds here. Does it mean that Bitcoin's going to go straight there on the weekly? I don't know. We'll see. Daily could use a pullback. Maybe it's got one more left in it to 100K. We'll see. 95 to 100K, I would say. But let's go ahead and actually kind of plot that out real quick. So I'll take my LARP line off the screen here. And let's go ahead and pull that range fib. That range fib is something that we could probably look at better on the daily here, as it has been working quite well actually. So the big areas to pay attention to above the one spot extension, which this is just the 73.835 prior all-time high when we went into the consolidation, to the $49,000 low there. And we see that the major areas to pay attention to are the 1272 at around $82,500. And then above there, the 1414, which Bitcoin is currently hanging on to even on a closing basis at 87.5. And the next big target overhead that is coming in line with our upper second standard deviation now is around $95,000. I would give this some room, by the way. If Bitcoin does trade above Wednesday's high at 93.5, I would look for around $95,000 to $96,000, somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit higher. If it does start to push above there, then you can kind of keep it as a zone above 95 as like 96 to 98. Then we start looking 98 to about 100,000, possibly even 102 to 103 almost up here by the upper third. Above there, then we're starting to look at the upper half above $100,000 to like 105, 106, and then 110 to that two spot up there at 111, almost $112,000 up here. This actually has confluence with the wider bear market fib that I was pulling for you to kind of show you. And I'll kind of line that up in just a second, but we need this shorter term kind of breakpoint at this 1.168 extension overhead at $95,000 to $96,000 as a zone of interest. I would take it like 2K above that 96, 2K at a time. We might have to update that in terms of what's going on with higher volatility. But above there, 96 to 98, 98 to 100K. I would expect at minimum some lower term time frame resistance at 100K, maybe even a front run at some of those lower levels that I just talked about. But this is good. We needed this little bit of a sideways consolidation for the past couple of days after, kind of getting into the 89 to $90,000 region. This is what we wanted to see. A little bit of cool down in the lower term time frames below the daily. A little bit of a back test down. Nice pop back up. This is the highest close that we've gotten. So thank you for the new all-time high close at 91K. That's very nice to see. Now, pullbacks that do head down and breach below the low side structure here, somewhere around 86 to this wick low at $85,000, and especially on any closes that lose the upper first standard deviation below like 86, I would still need to see the criteria of closing below 85 in this case. Then I'd be looking to this 1272, somewhere around 80 to $82,500. Oops, sorry, moved the whole fib there. But that's kind of where I would start to look as a nice area of interest. If we did start to see that area lost, $82,500 to $80,000 is the 1272 here to this 1.168. I want to be very clear. This is not a 1.618, which is up here at 95. This is a 1.168, and you're like, why are you even using that? Lower term time frame stuff, it sometimes will have confluence on the daily. I would expect that if Bitcoin hangs on the highs and fails to break out above, and especially close above 93.5, then we might be looking for a high being put in. And then I'd want to see where the basis band ends up. And this is currently at $77,000. Bitcoin's above it. It's fine. Even on big pullbacks, big high put in, it's fine. We have nice volatility here, and a cool down like that would not be unexpected. And really, it's just about meeting the criteria. Wicks above, wicks below don't matter as much as the closes in terms of directional continuation. So closes above 93.5, I'd be looking for continuation up to some of these areas if they weren't hit already on a swing or a wick. Same for the downside. Any closes below 85, I would expect 82.5 to 80,000 or somewhere around the basis, wherever that ends up. And Bitcoin hangs on the highs over the weekend. We're going to see this basis, continue up. Nice to see the lower first standard deviation above the last higher low, which again, the last higher low on the daily is all the way down here at 66,800 on a swing, 67,800 on a close, which is also right around that 786 there for that range fib pull. So now that we're into the extensions, I talked a little bit about some of the stuff that that had confluence overhead at like that $100,000 range. So let's go ahead and remind you of what that fib pull is. And that is, we could just take a weekly, it's fine. Just zoom out here and we can pull the prior cycle's bear trend here and get the fib extensions here. You can see that we are now trading above. We can even go to the daily here. We can see that we were trading on the daily around that macro 1.168 at 88.5 to 88,700 here, and just kind of skating right alongside of it with the close opens there. And we now see that the upper second standard deviation, of course, on that daily is right around 94 to 95, around that local 1.168 that we were just looking at on the daily. But overhead, what do we see? Any closes above there, I'd look for price to start heading up into the deeper 90s, targeting 100 and over $100,000 to this 1272, more macro fib pull at 103, possibly even above to 105, 106, like we saw on that daily. Anywhere above there, more long-term, we're looking to about $128,000. I would expect that to have some wicks. We're starting to get into wider sets of volatility up there on longer-term timeframes. And that's where, again, going all the way back to that weekly that we started out with on RSI, 134K, and then looked at that on the realized ceiling here at around that 134. Fair game. And anywhere around that 1.414. I'd want to see closures on longer term timeframes. Like, obviously I want to see weekly get continuation, especially above $90,000, that upper third. We're going to get very aggressive expansion, and off of a compression like this and then a kind of a range down, we do want to see it racing above. I'll give you a little bit of a reference for that. We didn't even see it that much back here. We'll look back to the prior cycle here. So we start getting, yeah, man, we haven't even seen this. We haven't seen this in quite a long time, actually. I'm trying to think, like, when was the last time the weekly was racing above the upper third? So I would say, yeah, maybe be a little careful, a little cautious. This is a big move, but this is also a very deep compression on the bands here. So it's not abnormal to see that upper third get closed above, maybe even multiple times. We've seen last week and then this week. Last week was just ever so slight. So this is looking very good. Let's go back to the daily for just a minute, kind of wrap things. When looking at RSI, there is no in-trend bearish divergence right now. So we do have like maybe some historical stuff that if you have a long enough look back is relevant. It's not relevant, to be quite honest. We haven't seen any in-trend bearish divergence. Pullbacks are fine. A high is fine. Once we get the next high, which it has not really painted a high yet, that would occur on. Technically, that would occur on closes below like the low side structure at around $86,500 to $87,000. I'd still need to see 85 dropped on a close, but other than that, we'd have to look for maybe a wider pullback and then higher highs with lower reads on RSI. Right now, this is still a move in progress, so looks good still. In fact, we're even getting a bit of that cool down look where we're getting the expansion past the price action. So we've lost the upper second, so a spike back to wherever the upper second is. Of course, 94 to 95 that we talked about is kind of the main area, maybe even 96K being one of the main areas where the upper second might end up, or a wick through it might end up. If we were to see price get back above it aggressively, then we can start looking to that $100,000 region and above. But be aware that we've kind of topped that volatility metric. Doesn't mean that we can't keep spiking it in terms of volatility. So we just need to keep a close eye on it. And again, realistically, pullbacks to $82,500 to $80,000 are fine. I want to see, for this Sunday though, I want to see closes above 81.5 to 82, right? So while kind of in order, I want to see this weekend by Sunday closes above $81.5 to $82,000. But after that, pullbacks to $82.5 to $80,000 are fine. Even pullbacks all the way down to retest the entire breakout structure are fine. Which of course would bring us down into the 75 to 73. Whereas remember, my ranges when we were headed up were 73 to 75, 75 to 78, 78 to 80, mid to low 80s, and then we start looking above 80s into the 90,000 and above region. That's currently where we are. Excuse me, but getting this residual expansion of the Bollinger Bands, while volatility kind of tops its metric, is not abnormal at all. And typically when you see a high volatility environment, as long as Bitcoin is trading above its upper first, you're likely going to see that upper second get ran again, wherever it is, even if it is higher than the previous high. So closes above that previous high, 93.5, looking 95 to 96K, and above there, 96, 98, 98 to 100, and possibly above to that, 103, 104, 105 area. Really can kind of get wicks landing anywhere, but I think that's about it for today. Analysis gets a little bit simpler actually when we are in kind of blue sky territory. So I rely heavily on the band volatility metrics, and I think that that's the way to go. It has not failed me at any point in my career, so I'm going to keep sticking with it. And this is what we want to see. Again, as a reminder, we're midway through the month. We want to see closes by the end of the month above the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. That's currently at $89,000. Or no, that's this. Sorry, it's at $87,500. My bad. So closes above there by the end of the month. Going to look really good for expansion to the upside. Probably a price replace band stuff, all the major levels, but we're now starting to see the upper third around $114,500. So looks good. Looks really good. Again, we need to see closes, but we also just put in a higher low on the monthly, so I would be looking for continuation from this month into December. So yeah, exciting stuff. Mike Tyson fights on here shortly, so I'm going to get going. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. Have a great weekend, and I will talk back at you again on Monday. Don't miss the Monday show, the Monday morning show at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Standard. I don't have any guests planned, but we're going to be talking about all of this kind of stuff, and we'll have some fun in that Spaces event. So take care of yourselves and have a great weekend. Landy up.